So, the fuck's going on? Today, I'm going to be taking a look at a ranked game that I played. We're just going to be analysing pretty much the lane phase, because I think that's the place where I needed to improve the most. Obviously this isn't very high at all, ranked gameplay, but I think the current landscape is very saturated with that, and I think it probably is helpful for people to see more people playing, low elo gameplay and analysing it from the perspective of someone who's actually trying to get better in that elo, rather than someone who's already just a lot better. So yeah, we are playing Leblanc against Brand in this matchup, and the junglers are Vi and Kayn. So obviously this is going to be a fairly high volatility lane, just because we have the ability to poke at each other so much, and both of the junglers are, incentivized to gank fairly strongly in this lane. So we'll just go through it, and we'll talk about things as they come up. So yeah. So Kayn is just starting his chickens by himself, which is a fairly normal start. And the Brand gets very aggressive here early, and I think I do a good job of handling it. We move forward. We trade very, very, very favourably here, which really this, if we're playing optimally, should actually just win us the lane on the spot. Unfortunately, we play very poorly from here and expose ourselves to a lot of unnecessary aggro. He ignites us and we have to walk back. And the lane's a tie again, which shouldn't have happened. We should have, instead of playing so aggressively there, we should have waited for our level 2, and then probably just all-in him as soon as we hit level 2. It was just straight up a mistake to be playing as aggressively as I was there. Continuing on, he has the level 2 advantage, so I try to dodge the pillar, which doesn't come. So, end up wasting a flash too. When in reality, probably the smarter option was to just back off, respect him until I hit 2. But we've got our health advantage back here, and now I start looking to try and get that some benefit out of that. If we'd landed our ignite, he probably would have died there, or certainly would have died. But ultimately, we end up winning the first tilted lane anyway. Unfortunately, because of Leblanc's pretty poor clear speed, there's really no prospect for us to ever shove this under his tower at this point. So I'm pretty much just sit managing the wave as best as I can until he gets back. Ideally, it would have been nice to be able to shove him under tower. We would have got more of an advantage out of it, but there was just no way for that to be done under the circumstances. We can't even really manage the wave because of Leblanc's very poor early clear. So here we probably should have been playing a little bit more proactively, because we know he didn't have his stun yet, and we could have just jumped on him, traded a few abilities, and put ourselves in a better spot going on to our level 4. Kayn decides to come gank here. I think I go in a little too early. Instead of trying to initiate it, I should have let him do so, I believe. Should have let him be the one to start the fight, and then I should have just pretty much, hit the Brand with a Q auto, and then moved away so that I didn't get killed. But mistakes were made. So the wave just ends up freezing in an okay spot for us. We make it back with the wave in pretty much the spot where we left it. Stacked pretty heavily in our favour, but Brand clears waves very quickly. But we've now got a level advantage, and we've got an item, so we should be looking to play a bit more aggressively here. That was just poorly executed. He shouldn't have flashed to try and follow up there, but in that particular instance, I was trying to preempt the dodge, but he didn't dodge, so got punished for it. He then overcommitted for an engage and really didn't get any value out of it. Should have just kept his flash. So we just come back to lane, leave a ward. And once we're through the laning phase, I'm just going to try and pick at some choice points that we can look at as what are arguably spots that influence the rest of the game. Obviously, this lane is not having a huge bearing on the game at the moment. This Kayn here is the real winner. We take an obviously bad trade there, but I think this is actually fairly important for us to look at. So we end up getting stunned by the brand, but he's out of damage here. So instead of just backing up, I just dump my combo on him, and the trade ends up pretty well in our favour. Very slightly, but definitely in our favour. And Brand's just going to recall here, which is the smart thing to do. He shouldn't stay around much longer, because once I have 6, I have like a very high amount of kill pressure with him that low. And what we're going to try and do here is just shove the lane in. Mostly unsuccessfully, because we don't have the fastest clear. We're also just not doing it very well. But we take this as a recall timing, and the wave gets unfortunately stuck just a little bit outside and freezes somewhere we would prefer that it didn't. So the moral of the story being that if you're going to push, you should push as aggressively as possible in situations like that. So Brand will just get to come back in, and probably could have frozen it there, so this is a bit of a mistake on his part, really. He could have just frozen safely under tower and put me at constant pressure of ganks from the Vi, but he doesn't. I notice him missing, so I ping it here, but bot lane don't really take much notice of it. Nothing we can do about that, really, so we just push the wave, which I think is the right call here. I was too late to roam, and committing to doing so at this point would have just been a waste of time. So we just commit to the roam, to the push, and try and deny him a little bit of CS. And Vi suggesting that they dragon there, but doesn't really follow through with it, and the bot lane are clearly too busy. And at this point, I think this is a bit of a mistake on my part. I start to look to roam down because I see that the Caitlyn's low, but then I lose vision of them and feel like it's too late, so I just move back to lane. And the lane is again stuck in a pretty awkward spot, so jungle pressure here would be fairly punishing, but luckily we don't really find ourselves harassed by the jungler too much at this stage. And some pinging goes down. People get spotted on Dragon, Levi specifically. Both Brand and I go to rotate. He decides to come back to lane to try and shove it to pin me to the tower. I commit to losing a bit of CS to rotate and help with the Dragon, which ultimately I think ends up being the correct choice. He doesn't catch me coming in, and I manage to pick up a kill on him, and we take out the rest. Now here, I think we make a pretty solid decision to go back in. The reason being is that it's ultimately a 2v3. The Zyra doesn't have ult yet, so she's not really a threat in this particular engage. I'm not ult reliant to any great degree, and Kayn is quite fed. So we have pretty good prospects of winning this fight if it goes well. And I just make sure to finish off the Zyra here. She wastes flash. I give her a few auto attacks, but really can't follow through, so just rotate back and pig dragon. And we get the dragon without incident. And then the Vi just throws her life away for no particular reason. Nearly manages to survive, but Kayn gets the kill and runs away because he's very fed. So then we just head back to lane because we've got a big wave stacked and we can shove this into tower. We know Brand isn't here, so we get to get some free turret plate and maybe deny him a little CS. And we don't stick around here because we know he can clear the wave very quickly. It's just not really worth the risk of getting caught under tower or whatever. And so at this point in the game, we're still fairly close, although we do have a definite lead of 3k gold, which is pretty solid for 11 minutes into the game, actually. Nearly 4k gold now. One thing looking back on this matchup that I feel like I could have... so Kayn comes in here, we managed to pick up a pretty nice kill off what I feel was a solid engage on my part. One thing that I have noticed about this matchup that I think I need to work on is that I need to be more respectful of that incinerated or whatever it's called, the ability that puts every minion and champion in range of a burning minion or champion on fire. I have a tendency to walk into its radius when really I should just be staying outside of it and respecting the free harass that it represents. And I do start improving on this later in the game, but I just don't see the matchup that often, so it is something that I haven't developed as a skill yet. Because Brand is mostly a support. What's he doing mid lane? And we do see the gank at the last second and managed to get away. Don't know why they really tried that one, but I suppose it could have worked. And we'll just jump ahead a little bit. Nothing too pivotal is really occurring right now. Kayn manages to solo the Brand, which is very good. He has his Rifty. I decide that instead of staying, I'm going to rotate onto the spot lane because they are pushed up, and on my way, do some sweeping, make sure that I'm not getting spotted, no wards, and I put a pink in here. Jinx chooses a good time to pick the engage, and I just make sure I get the Caitlyn here. Just dash in, Q her, make sure she goes down. I think it's important to acknowledge the mistake that I made here, though. I pathed back in because I thought that Kayn and Jinx might get there in time. Unfortunately, they were obviously not going to. And then I compounded that mistake by, instead of just walking and dashing over the wall, dashing this way, and then I end up just dying to the combination of Leandry's burn and the plant's auto attacks, which we could have, again, easily prevented by just dashing over this wall, I think. But the outcome of the fight's still relatively positive. Though we do end up losing Dragon here, which kind of the opposite of what we're after. Though in saying that, they take a very long time getting to the dragon, so part of the thing here is that they should have started this a lot earlier than they actually did. What ends up happening here is that Kayn sufficiently distracts them that I'm able to get back. They still get the dragon, but we end up trading multiple kills for the dragon. I just focus down the Vi, and then Kayn is able to clean up the rest in there. And then combined, we are able to chase the Caitlyn down and make it a 4-0 over a dragon. Their first dragon, to be specific, which, again, just stretches our lead. And as another critical consequence here, with the way the waves are stacked, this ends up just being a massive tempo loss for them. Even though they get the dragon, they end up losing a tower down here, a bunch of CS here, and a bunch of gold. So, I guess the way to look at it is that it's a very strong lesson in either doing dragons right the fuck away, or backing off when you don't have the ability to take them convincingly and survive afterwards, because they got maybe 50 gold out of this and a practically insignificant buff, like virtually worthless, and then ended up losing, 1,000 gold out of it, maybe more. And so we just rotate mid, we shove this wave in, and probably what we should have done here was to just get in this brush and recall. Instead we screw around for a bit. I start looking to try and roam down there, but there's no one, so we don't. And we just come back mid and catch the wave on the way back through, shove it back in. But we probably could have just recalled here, as I said. Because we certainly have a lot of gold to spend at this point. So we'll just jump forward again. A little bit back even. So we find ourselves around here. And I noticed the brand coming in here, so I decide to try and see if I can kill him. Can't quite, back out of the situation. Ultimately, this is quite bad positioning from them. They nearly get encircled, and then Vi makes a pretty suspect engage there. We just end up picking up the Zyra, pretty much for free. I didn't have W here, but I wanted to hop over the wall and pick up the brand. Couldn't do it. Team's just rolling through theirs, so we follow up, help kill the Caitlyn. And the other one. And we end up picking up a tower here, which is good. Mundo decides to 1v4, which, I guess, more power to him, I suppose. Well, we should get the tower. Oh, Riven must get this tower up here. Not much happens for a little bit then. At this point, we're sort of looking at setting up for Dragon. We've still got control over the pit. I use pink to clear it out, and then start looking for the flank. Because obviously their squishier members are going to be at the back, so I'm sweeping and coming around the back here to try and get some access to those targets. I think they might spot me here, so I sort of duck around a bit, expecting some harass. Nothing comes, and we just jump in, try to do as much as we can with no particular target that we have any priority on. Kane does a great job there, and everyone follows up on the engage very well, which picks us up a dragon. And as soon as we've done the dragon, both myself and the Kane immediately ping Baron. Jinx wins a melee form fight with a Vi, which is interesting. And we just get Baron with no real contest. Some pointless crap happens, which we're not going to worry about. And now looking pretty much at the end of the game here. The other team's going to surrender very shortly. K manages to catch them in the jungle here. We avoid this Vi because we don't really want to fight her and just pick on some backline members. Succeed in picking up the brand, and from here the fight's pretty much just a chase down. And yeah, as the last one falls, and an inhibitor goes down, they decide to surrender. So we end up picking up the win. Yeah. So I think there are some very good lessons that we can take from this game, both in terms of things that we did execute well and some that we didn't. So, from the perspective of our mid lane matchup, we can definitely say that as someone playing against Brand, you have to be more respectful of when he can use his abilities for free harass. I made the mistake of not respecting that multiple times, and it made that lane a lot closer than it needed to be. We needed to be more proactive on that level 2 fight, and also to not just walk into his minions while autoing him. It was just poor play. On the other hand, we did well to start making timely roams and affecting the map elsewhere, and that helped to get us back in the game. The other thing that I think is important to acknowledge here is that this was a game that ultimately we ended up winning by like small incremental increases in lead, and a lot of those came out of the enemy team picking bad engagements. Like, for example, where they decided to attempt that dragon with the Kane still around, but like substantially after they'd cleared our team out of the area. They ended up losing a bunch of tempo and a bunch of gold out of it. So, making good macro plays, I guess, is like something that we should always be looking to do. Team deathmatching it is rarely effective, and even more so, making bad macro plays and then getting caught in team deathmatches isn't effective. So yeah, that's the first of hopefully many games that we'll have a look at on this channel. And thanks for watching, all one of you. Peace. We're not going with that. That was bad.